Welcome back to Creepshow, where the truth is stranger than fiction. Today we're diving into the chilling world of mysterious deaths before trial. These are cases where justice was left unanswered, and the stories behind these deaths raise more questions than they answer. From political intrigue to outright murder, join us as we explore the 10 most perplexing cases that left the world in suspense. Number 10. Henry Gilbert. In 1947, law enforcement officials in Georgia, United States of America, were looking for a black man who was suspected of being involved in the murder of a white man. Henry Gilbert, an African-American man who was 42 years old and a prosperous farmer in Harris County, was a remarkable individual. As a result of the police's suspicion that Gilbert, a married father of 4, was concealing the fugitive, Gilbert was taken into custody. Gilbert was completely unaware of the details that the cops were discussing. In addition to the fact that Gilbert did not even make it to the interior of a courtroom, the officials in charge of governance did not have a warrant for his arrest. It was in the Harris County Jail that he perished. It was asserted by the chief of police that he had killed Gilbert in the name of self-defense. If this is true, then Gilbert must have possessed a strength that is beyond explanation. It was determined by morticians that the prisoner had been shot 5 times, had a broken leg, a damaged cranium, and many crushed bones. Additionally, the prisoner had been shot. In addition to the significant harm that had already been done, the police also arrested his wife on the same accusations. In spite of the fact that she lived to witness her counsel winning the dismissal of the charges, we are left wondering why the police felt the Gilberts would be engaged in the incident. On the other hand, if the police committed a crime and were able to get away with the murder of the husband, why would they risk being detected and target the wife? Number 9. Federico Garcia Lorca. It is ironic that Garcia Lorca wrote, "Only mystery allows us to live," given the circumstances surrounding the manner in which the renowned Spanish poet passed away. As a result of the fact that his art and the people he was connected with through his craft meant everything to him, Lorca had compassion for people of all political associations. Conflicts between conservative nationalists and those who opposed them finally resulted in the commencement of civil war in July of 1936. His defense of the common people, his modernism, and probably most importantly, his open homosexuality, were the reasons that the nationalist faction loathed Lorca. This was true regardless of the political positions that Lorca supported. The arrest of Lorca was carried out by nationalist forces in August of the same year. The following day, law enforcement officers carried him away in a car, drove him to a rural road, and then put him to death. People have made a lot of efforts throughout the years, but nobody has ever been able to locate Lorca's body. This dusty background is a reflection of the murky nature of the grounds for his arrest. It's difficult to think of any other motivation save hatred. Number 8. Emil Hácha. Before the start of the Second World War, Hitler was working to strengthen Germany's control over the Central European region. In March of 1939, Hitler organized a conference in Berlin with Emil Hácha, who was serving as the president of Czechoslovakia at the time. He gave Hácha 2 choices to choose from. Alternatively, Czechoslovakia may choose to fight the German invaders and bear the repercussions of their actions, or it could work with the German invaders, in which case Czechoslovakia could anticipate maintaining some degree of autonomy. Due to the fact that the German army was prepared to start its advance, Hácha needed to make a decision as swiftly as possible. In light of the fact that he did not see any other options, he went along with the Germans and agreed to help with them by calling Prague and issuing orders that the people should not resist. The German protectorate of Bohemia and Moravia was led by Hácha, who was appointed to the position of president by Hitler. In the course of the war, Hácha's role became less significant and less significant. Nevertheless, he never wavered in his conviction that he had made the most beneficial decision for his people. It was not a viewpoint that was adhered to by the Soviets. May of 1945 saw the Red Army successfully liberate Prague. The new authorities took Hácha into custody on May 13th and proceeded to send him to prison. On June 27, 2018, he passed away while awaiting his trial. How he passed away is a mystery. Historians and members of his family are of the opinion that the Soviets were responsible for his death. Number 7. Syama Prasad Mukherjee. Beginning in the early 20th century, Syama Prasad Mukherjee was a prominent politician in India who served as a member of Nehru's cabinet. Nehru and Mukherjee had a disagreement on a pact that established a relationship between India and Pakistan during the early years of Indian independence, when the political landscape was turbulent. Mukherjee established a political party in 1951 that served as the immediate ancestor of the political organization that is now known as the Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP. An Indian rule that prohibited Indian people from residing in the contested region of Kashmir was something that Mukherjee was vehemently opposed to when it was passed. In May of 1953, he undertook an attempt to illegally enter Kashmir. The authorities took him into custody and subsequently incarcerated him. Soon after, he became ill, and a physician recommended a medication that, according to Mukherjee, was not appropriate for him. In spite of this, the physician administered it. Almost immediately after that, Mukherjee passed away due to a heart attack. It is still a widely held belief that Nehru gave the order for his execution and carried out the murder of him before he could be tried. Number 6. Abu Nidal. There was a man named Abu Nidal who was a firm believer in the effectiveness of direct action. Negotiation was not something that he believed could be used to find a solution to the challenges that Palestine was facing. He went by the name Sabri Khalil al-Banna in real life. Father of struggle is what Abu Nidal really means. Nidal established the Abu Nidal organization when he broke away from the faction of the Palestine Liberation Organization that was led by Yasser Arafat. His personality was reflected in the name, which was chosen since Nidal was required to be at the center of every operation. There is no question in anyone's mind that his organization was the one responsible for terrorist strikes all around the world. On the other hand, it is difficult to know for certain what the group's involvement was in the various atrocities that occurred. Nidal asserted that he was responsible for actions that he most likely had very little or insignificant involvement in. It is highly probable that Nidal was involved in the bombing of Pan Am Flight 103 in 1988, which occurred over Lockerbie Airfield in Scotland. In an effort to disassociate Libya from any participation, Muammar Gaddafi expelled Nidal from the nation in the year 1999. At the time, Nidal was residing in Iraq, which was in the process of being invaded by the United States. Nidal was taken into custody by intelligence officers who went to his residence in Baghdad. In accordance with the chief of Iraqi intelligence, Nidal reportedly inquired about the possibility of changing his attire before to his removal from the country. A change in the plot occurs at this point. When he went into his bedroom, he allegedly shot himself, according to some sources. According to a number of different stories, there was a firefight between Nidal's personal security detail and the agents. There are others who believe that Saddam Hussein was concerned that Nidal might work with the United States government in the event of an invasion by the United States, which led to his execution in cold blood. Number 5. Melissa Caddick. As soon as a foot was found on Bournda Beach in New South Wales, Australia, it was immediately determined that it belonged to Melissa Caddick. February 2021 was the month in question. It was in November of the previous year that Caddick vanished. The day before she disappeared, federal and local law enforcement officials conducted a search warrant at her residence in the vicinity of Sydney. They were looking for evidence that she had stolen approximately $30 million from investors in a Ponzi scheme. From the year 2012 until the year 2019, many individuals, including her family and friends, were under the impression that they were making safe investments with Caddick. However, Caddick was actually putting the money in 37 separate bank accounts and utilizing it to fund a lavish lifestyle. She pretended to be a genuine and reputable internet stockbroker in order to deceive her clients by providing them with fabricated statements that she had produced herself. Caddick departed her home the day after the home search was conducted. and she was never seen or heard from again, despite the fact that her business was being investigated by the authorities in charge of finances. The finding of the foot raises a wide range of possibilities, including the possibility that Caddick committed suicide, was murdered, or even pretended to die in order to throw the authorities off her scent. Be wary of an Australian woman who is only able to walk on one foot if she attempts to persuade you to make an investment. Number 4. Lee Bradley Brown. While being held in detention in Dubai, British citizen Lee Bradley Brown passed away. It was at the 11th hour that he made the choice to take a vacation at the famed Burj Al Arab Hotel, and the specifics of what took on in his room are still the subject of a great deal of uncertainty. The personnel at the hotel said that a maid entered Brown's room without giving him any prior warning, and that she did not wear a uniform or have any kind of identification with her. There were allegations made by the workers that Brown had assaulted the maid and attempted to toss her off the internal balcony. Brown resisted aggressively even when local authorities interfered in an attempt to control him, despite the staff's best efforts. Brown was accused of intimidating others and using foul language when he was being detained. As a result of being placed in a cell with other European offenders, Brown appeared to get along well with his fellow inmates. Brown returned after a visit to the prosecutor's office with major injuries and was placed in solitary confinement as a result of his circumstances. It was alleged by the chief of police that Brown had been beaten by other inmates, and video proof might be supplied to back the accusation. However, the chief of police never provided any video evidence. After some time had passed, the officer disputed that he had provided surveillance and asserted that Brown had repeatedly thrown himself to the ground, taking responsibility for his own injuries. Even though Brown passed away 6 days after his arrest, there is still no conclusive evidence to explain how or why he passed away. Number 3. Hans Kammler. In the event that Hans Kammler had ever been located, he would have been put on trial as a Nazi war criminal by the tribunal. In addition to being a highly talented engineer, Kammler was a high-ranking member of the SS. He was responsible for overseeing the construction of concentration camps, contributing to a variety of civil engineering projects, and managing the V-2 rocket development. Because of his expertise in rocketry, he would have been an asset to any American or Soviet team that was working on projects that were comparable to those being worked on. As World War II came to a close, there were stories that contradicted each other regarding his whereabouts. His driver stated that Kammler had passed away on or around May 10, 1945, but he was unable to provide any information regarding the manner in which Kammler had passed away. According to a statement made by a veteran officer of the OSS, Kammler was sent to the United States of America, where he passed away in 1947. During the final days of the war, he is said to have been present in a variety of sites around Germany, according to other stories. It's possible that he passed away in the midst of the mayhem, that he moved to the United States, or that he had a long life in Argentina. It is a well-known truth that he passed away before ever appearing before any form of court or tribunal. Number 2. Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein was currently serving time at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York City, where he was awaiting trial for sex trafficking. He passed away there. However, this was not the first time that Epstein had been arrested for sexual offenses. In the event that he was found guilty at this new trial, he was a convicted criminal who was certain to get a lengthy term. After Epstein was discovered asleep in his cell with injuries to his neck, officials placed him under suicide watch in the days leading up to the event. This was done after a guard discovered him in his cell. There was supposed to be another convict who shared Epstein's cell, and a guard was supposed to check on him every half an hour. On the evening of his passing, the authorities did not adhere to these predetermined measures. Epstein had been removed from the suicide watch. There was no other inmate present, and no security had checked on him in his holding cell. Due to the fact that the 2 cameras that were focusing on the area at the time of his death accidentally malfunctioned, the public is left wondering whether he committed suicide or whether it was a hit job to cover for others who were involved in his many unlawful activities. Number 1 is Jack Ruby. The role of Jack Ruby contributes to the growing number of conspiracy theories that have been proposed regarding the circumstances surrounding the killing of President John F. Kennedy. Lee Harvey Oswald was taken into custody by the authorities for the murder of John F. Kennedy. However, Ruby attacked Oswald in a highly public manner prior to Oswald's prosecution. After Ruby was put on trial for the murder, the judge found him guilty of the crime. A fresh trial was granted to him when he filed an appeal. Despite the fact that Ruby passed away from cancer before to the beginning of his new trial, there are others who believe that the facts alone leave a great deal of questions unanswered. Why did Ruby cause Oswald's death? If Ruby was involved in organized crime, what were her connections? Why did Ruby get a second chance to defend herself? Why did Ruby pass away so quickly after receiving his diagnosis? Not a single one of these inquiries has been answered as of yet. Thank you for joining us on this eerie journey through unexplained deaths and unfulfilled justice. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode of Creepshow. Let us know in the comments which case chilled you the most, and if there are any other mysterious tales you'd like us to cover. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.